Hi 5/6s, we're back again reading The Beast of Buckingham Palace, Chapter 38, Life and Death. Grammy was floating face down in the water. Alfred rushed to the side of the submarine as laser blast after laser blast scorched the hull of HMS Scepter from the airship above. Zap, 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 zap. Boom, 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 boom. Grammy, he cried as he tried to slide down into the water to reach her. Enid yanked him back. I know you love her, but you can't help her now, she implored. Get inside before you are blasted to pieces too. No, cried the boy. Zap, 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 zap. Boom, 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 boom. You are coming with me, ordered Enid, and she dragged Alfred inside the submarine as laser blasts rained down all around them. Grammy. Zap, 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 zap. Boom, 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 boom. Once inside HMS Scepter lurched off at speed as more laser blasts hit the hull. Zap, 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 boom, boom, boom. Tears rolled down Alfred's face. I can't believe, Grammy, he's gone, he sobbed. The old queen died how she would have wanted to, spluttered a tearful Agatha. A hero. Much better to die a hero than live as a coward, remarked Enid, choking back her tears. Shot in the back, said Alfred. But with her head held high, continued a distraught Enid. The best way we can honour her now is to complete her mission. We must save this country. I speak for all us ladies when I say we will serve you now, Prince Alfred. We await your orders, sir. They all looked to the boy. Alfred took a deep breath. He was not ready for this, not ready at all. He was only 12 and still in his pyjamas. But now the moment for him to embrace his destiny. To the tower! All the old ladies rushed to their posts on the submarine. Alfred stood up, dried his eyes on his sleeve, and resumed his position by the periscope. It took all his strength just to stand there and not collapse to the floor with grief. He had never felt more broken. Is the target in sight, sir? Asked Agatha. Yes, the Tower of London is in sight, replied the boy. Shall we load the torpedo? Said Enid. Alfred looked down at the orb ready to be wheeled into position. He hesitated. His mother was still locked in the tower. Are you positive that thing isn't going to blow the whole place to smithereens? Just a hole, sir, replied Enid. A big one, but a hole. It is meant to take down a destroyer, not a city. And all the prisoners would have heard the 13 chimes, added Agatha. They know it is coming. What would you like us to do, sir? For the first time in his life, Alfred realised that life and death was actually in his hands. The responsibility of being a prince and a leader of men, or rather old ladies, was upon him. Load the torpedo, he ordered. The ladies in waiting struggled with the weight of it, and Alfred went to help them. Just like the submarine itself, the torpedo dated back to World War I. It was battered and cracked, and Alfred wondered whether it would go off. It was 200 years old, after all. Lifting it from the cradle, Agatha cried out, Oh, my back's gone. The torpedo slipped out of her hands just as it was about to smash on the floor, and goodness knows what. Kaboom! Alfred took the weight just in time. Phew, exclaimed Enid. Phew indeed, agreed the boy. With great care, the torpedo was loaded into the tube. Orb is ready to launch, announced Agatha. Alfred gulped before making the announcement. Fire! Then nothing happened. Nothing at all. Not a sausage, nothing. Sorry, said Agatha. I think I left the safety catch on. She flicked a switch. Click. Oh dear. Right. Ready. Fire, commanded Alfred again. This time he could feel something was happening. The entire submarine rattled, then bang! The torpedo shot from the cylinder. Through the periscope, Alfred could make it out, surging down the river. Whoosh! Before, kaboom! It hit the Tower of London and exploded. In an instant, the ancient building was in flames. I'll show you the orb. Oops. Smoke billowed across the river. Through it, Alfred could make out figures diving into the water below. "To the surface," he ordered. As soon as the submarine had ascended, Alfred raced up the ladder and leaped onto the hull. He was desperate to spot his mother in amongst all the prisoners leaping from the burning building. Into the River Thames. Splish, splash, splosh. Most were swimming to the far side of the river. Alfred spotted a figure behind the others. He remembered his mother could not swim very well. He plunged into the water. Splosh! And swam over to her. "Mama," he called. "Oh, Lionheart, I knew you'd save me," she replied. Bobbing in the water, she held him close. "I love you," he said. "I love you too." The Queen held her son even tighter, and their heads went under the water. Bloop, bloop, bloop. "You nearly drowned me," exclaimed Alfred. "I am sorry. I just love you too much." "Come on," said Alfred. He took her hand, and together they swam towards the submarine. When they had reached the relative safety of the vessel, they heaved themselves up onto it. Alfred and his mum. "Where is Grammy?" asked his mother, looking around. Alfred shook his head. He couldn't bear to say it. "Gone?" she asked. The boy nodded his head. "No." Tears welled in the Queen's eyes. "No, no, not dear old Granny. How did she die?" "Shot in the back." "I am sorry. I know how much you loved her." "Oh, I did. I really did. And I know how much she loved you. There will always be a part of Grammy inside you. Never forget that." "I won't, Mama." Just then, a small voice in the water cried out, Don't forget about me." Alfred squinted to make out who it was. Might, he cried. Together, he and the Queen hauled her out of the water. "Thanks," said the little girl. "I thought I was a goner." Laser blasts began exploding all around them. Zap, 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 zap. Boom, 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 boom. The three held on tight to the hull as HMS Sceptre powered away from the blazing Tower of London. Alfred saluted. "Goodbye, Grammy," he said as her body drifted down the river. Chapter 39, Limb from Limb. All along the riverbank, people came out of their hiding places. They had heard the 13 bongs of Big Ben. They were ready for revolution. On seeing the submarine surging along the Thames, with a Union Jack flying from its hull, cheers went up across London. Hooray! The poor, the hungry, the homeless. Now was their time to fight back against the evil engine that had kept them living in fear for so long. They waved their own Union Jacks high in the air. With a loudspeaker, the Queen spoke from the hull of the submarine. "It is time for the Lord Protector's evil dictatorship to end. We will tear down the flag of the Griffin and replace it with the flag of our great nation. Hooray!" The portly man of Indian descent called out from the riverbank. He was waving a severely out-of-date bag of marshmallows and shouting, "Anyone looking for a special offer on some delicious marshmallows?" It was future Raj. He was exactly the same as normal Raj, but his confectionery was even more out of date. "Smile and wave, dear," prompted the Queen. "Smile and wave. That's what we royals do." Alfred, not used to being out in public, did as his mother said, even though it felt a bit silly. Zap, zap, zap. It felt even sillier when more laser blasts from the airship above hit the submarine. Boom, boom, boom. The Lord Protector's flying machine was chasing them. "Quickly, inside now," shouted the boy, and he held his mother and Mite's hands and let them down inside HMS Scepter to safety. The ladies in waiting found blankets for the two new arrivals and wrapped them up tight. "The last time I saw you, Nanny was taking you to the palace kitchen to get some chocolate," began Alfred. "How did you end up locked in the Tower of London?" The little girl was shivering with cold. "I didn't get no chocolate." "No? I waited and waited, and then the next thing I know, the room is full of guards." The Queen began listening to the conversation. "That's strange," said Alfred. "Is it?" asked Mite. Did the little girl know something he didn't? "Yes," joined in the Queen. "It is strange. Nanny has been in the royal household for all her working life. She looked after my little Lionheart here." With that, she looked lovingly at her son and stroked his hair. Alfred glowed with embarrassment that his mother was doing this in front of the girl. "I don't trust her one bit," said Mite. The boy went deep inside his mind. There were some things about Nanny that were hard to explain. Why did he feel so much better now he wasn't eating her eggy weggy every morning? Why did Nanny insist on locking him in his bedroom? Why did she not believe him about the statue of the griffin being used in the ritual, even when he found his father's blood on it? As quickly as Alfred had these thoughts, he dismissed them. Nanny had cared for him since he was a baby. The king before him too. There was no way she could be involved in the Lord Protector's evil plans. The last Alfred had heard, the wicked man was interrogating her. "Where to, Captain?" asked Enid, waking the boy up from his daydreams. "Buckingham Palace," replied the prince. "Full speed ahead. We must get there before all of London does." "Oh, goodness, yes," agreed the Queen. "I fear the angry mob will tear my husband limb from limbs. They will blame the king for this tyrannical rule, and not the real villain, the Lord Protector. We must save the king," called out the prince. "Full speed ahead to the palace," shouted Agatha. Alfred took his place at the periscope. Looking through it, he spied platoons of royal guards taking positions on Westminster Bridge. If the gang tried to disembark from the submarine at that point, there would be a massacre. "Blast," said the prince. "We are not going to be able to get close to the palace." "It's impossible," agreed the Queen. There were murmurs of agreement from the old dears. Mite spoke up. "It's not impossible. I know a way." "You don't mean—" began Alfred. "The tube tunnel. I swam up," exclaimed the girl. "But would a submarine fit?" "It should do," she replied. "The thing is about the same size as one of those old tube trains. I just need to show you the place where the tunnel meets the Thames." Enid unrolled a map of London, and Mite began trying to make sense of it all. Finally she pointed to a spot and shouted, "There, right opposite the London Eye." The ladies all gathered round to study the map. There, deep under the water level, is a giant hole. It must have been created by an explosion. That's the way into the tube tunnel. All the old dears shook their head. "What?" demanded Mite. "You can't pilot a submarine up the Piccadilly line," exclaimed Enid. "If it's wide enough, then why not?" asked Alfred. "Otherwise we'll be nothing but target practice for the royal guards." "That's a big if," muttered Agatha. "Look," began Alfred, "we don't have time to argue about this. For all we know, the Griffin could be about to destroy all of London." There were mutters of agreement from all the ladies in waiting. "The prince is right," said Enid. "Ladies," began Agatha, "let's do this." "To your station," commanded Alfred. "That's my boy," the Queen proclaimed proudly. In moments, HMS Scepter was surging through the water towards the entrance to the tube tunnel. Using the ancient radar, beep, 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 the exact location of the hole was found. It was just wider than the HMS Scepter herself. Expert navigation was needed to prevent the submarine from becoming jammed. If HMS Scepter did become stuck, then they would all die a slow and painful death. "Hold tight, ladies," called out the prince. "We're going in." Dumph! The submarine shuddered as it scraped the side of the entrance to the tunnel. All eyes turned to the prince, who was trying best to keep his cool. Crunch! Another knock. "Hold her steady," he ordered. Enid held the steering wheel tightly, sweat pouring from her brow. Agatha mopped it up with a lace handkerchief. Dunk! Another hit. "Hold her steady." The submarine began passing up the tube tunnel itself. "Hurrah!" shouted the ladies. The plan was working. HMS Scepter edged closer and closer to the palace. Then, crunch! The submarine lurched to a halt. Horror upon horror, they were stuck. "Backwards!" ordered the prince. There was a deafening grinding noise. Grrr. But the submarine didn't budge. Crunch! Forward! Again there was nothing but the ear-splitting noise. Grrr! Crunch! Backwards! Grrr! Crumph! It didn't move an inch. Then, in an instant, the submarine was plunged into darkness. The lights on board had failed. They were doomed. End of chapter 39.